Hey, this is Ramon, channel is Alpha 4. Welcome back. I haven't done an Alan Parr video in a while. I'm still a Catholic. He's still a Protestant. I'm still not a Muslim. I have read the Quran. I have read the Bible. I have grown in my Catholic faith since the last time I made a video on Alan Parr. I'm a little bit more knowledgeable. At least I hope I am. I'm a little bit more wise. Again, at least I hope I am. So let's talk about Alan Parr's newest video.
Of the world. In the red corner, we have the champion fighting out of the city of Jerusalem. It's Christianity.
So right off the bat, he's saying that Christianity is the champion of the two biggest religions in the world. Sort of true. Catholicism is actually the biggest religion in the world, followed by Islam, followed by Protestantism. But why cut hairs right now? Let's continue.
And in the blue corner, the challenger fighting out of the city of Mecca, Arabia. It is Islam. All right.
I'm hoping he's not going to say the origin of Islam is Mecca. That's not exactly correct, but anyway.
So today it's going down. We are going to take a detailed look at some of the differences between Islam and Christianity. And you guys know I love the number 7, so we're going to look at 7 basic categories, differences of beliefs, and we're going to see who comes out on top in the end. Are you ready? Let's jump in. Category number 1.
By the way, I've never watched this before. I was just scrolling through my feed. I saw his name pop up. I saw he was talking about Islam, as I've read the Quran and I've read the Bible, as I have religious stuff on my channel. I'm about to transition out of doing the religious stuff back to philosophy and martial arts. I thought, why not do a throwback to one of my more popular videos, and let's see what Alan Parr has to say about Islam. Anyway, Muslim viewers who have been hoping for some more Muslim content on this channel, welcome back.
Has to do with the number of followers. So Christianity, being the largest religion in the world, has over 2.1 billion followers. However, Islam is not that far behind because they have 1.5 billion followers.
Okay, so it's not a very good statistic. Again, the largest Christianity in the world is Catholicism. Catholicism actually has 2 sides, which is Orthodox and Roman, and actually even more sides if you consider Coptic and other stuff like that. So he's not really including the divisions there. Same thing with Islam. Islam has different sects, if you will, and each sect has a different belief, and they even won't, sometimes they won't even call the other sect Islam. So he's kind of being a little bit misleading there with the numbers, but anyway.
So for this first category, I'm going to have to be a point. But category number 2, which religion is growing the quickest? Well, statistics show that Islam is the fastest growing religion, and it's expected to overtake Christianity by the year 2050. So in terms of rate of growth, I'm going to have to give Islam a point. Category number 3 has to do with their...
That was kind of a fast point. Part of the reason why Christianity is not growing as fast is because most Christian nations also believe in free speech. And because of that, we have a lot of very open, very explicit atheism in our country, in our nations. So with atheism and secularism and agnosticism on the rise, as well as the resurgence of pagan and neo-pagan religions, yeah, people are leaving the faith. But in nations like ours, where people are leaving the faith, they're not just leaving the Christian faith, they're leaving the Muslim faith, they're leaving Islam, they're leaving Taoism, they're leaving Buddhism. So people who are leaving religion and spirituality are not just leaving from the Christian religion, they're leaving from all types of spirituality. Which is interesting, because I think the only sector that's actually growing is going to be the spiritualists, or the people who believe in ghosts but don't believe in God. You know, there's a whole bunch of hypocrisy there. But I've had those discussions before. For my atheist friends who used to watch or who used to interact with me, hi Badger, we've talked about that. It'd be good to have those conversations again now that I'm a little bit more versed in religion. But anyway, let's continue.
Leader. So Christianity's leader is Jesus. What do we know about Jesus? We know that Jesus lived a perfect life. We also know that even though Jesus died, he was buried, but he rose from the dead. However, the leader of Islam is a man by the name of Muhammad. Now, Muhammad, based on his own admission in the Quran, admittedly lived a very sinful life. We also know that Muhammad died and stayed dead and was never resurrected from the dead. In addition to this, even in the Quran, which was written by Muhammad, Muhammad acknowledges that Jesus Christ was one of the great prophets, but he said that Jesus was sinless. He admits that Jesus was born of a virgin, and he also acknowledges that Jesus was the worker of many miracles. And so if you are admitting that Jesus, in your own writings, was born of a virgin, was sinless, and performed many miracles that only God could perform, it would seem to suggest that Jesus would be the leader that you would want to follow. So in terms of the leader of origin of both religions, I'm going to have to give Christianity another point.
Okay. So there's a lot in that one. I personally believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. I personally believe that Jesus Christ is God. I personally believe in the Trinity. But as far as secular history is concerned, proving that a man rose from the dead is going to be a hard one. That's why it's called a miracle. More than that, if we're going to go the spiritual route, and this is something that I actually get kind of upset about when Tim Staples says it on Catholic Answers, there are actual resurrection cults. There are actual shrines, and you can even find it in Bible commentary. There are places of the Pythia where there were resurrection shrines to people who have come back from the dead. So it's not like reviving someone from death is unusual or unheard of in the ancient world. Yes, it was a very rare thing. Yes, it's always tied into mythology, usually tied into mythology, or someone who they thought was dead but came back. That kind of stuff. Someone waking up from a coma, I guess. But say that there's no one in history as being thought of as coming back from the dead. I mean, even in modern secular science, there's people whose heart stops and they get revived. So this is not something that's completely unheard of, no matter how much atheists like to call it impossible. No, there are people whose hearts stop and people get revived all the time. The idea of resurrection or revival is not completely unheard of, and it doesn't originate in Christianity. Well, I will argue that the reason why Christ's resurrection means more than any other resurrection that's either listed in the Bible, such as Lazarus, is that the simple fact that Jesus is God, the Son of God, part of the Trinity. The meaning of the sacrifice is very important, and why it was done. That's the important part. The resurrection itself is the incident. God could have saved everyone in any form that he wanted to save them in. Trent Horn has a really good explanation on that. But yeah, now let's move on to his claims on Islam. Muhammad didn't technically write the Quran. He recited it. It's a recital. The Quran wasn't written down until after he died by his apostles, disciples, whatever you want to call them, his followers. And even then, that was done after a battle, after a bunch of them lost portions of the Quran that can never be recovered because those people were dead. And so they decided to write it down. And then there's this whole later history of a kind of a civil war inside Islam where a final version of the Quran was made official. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. So yeah, Muhammad didn't physically write. Muhammad was illiterate. He didn't write the Quran. He recited the Quran. He received messages of the Quran and he spoke it. But anyway.
The fourth category has to do with the understanding understanding of God. So from a Christian perspective, we understand that God created all things, but yet, even though he is transcendent from us, he is also immanent with us, meaning he is someone who we can know. We are able to know. He is involved. He is interested in the details of our lives. We can have a personal relationship with God. And there are certain attributes of God that we attribute to him that are similar to human attributes, such as him being a father and all of these things. But in the Islam faith, God is so transcendent, he is so far away and detached and removed from his people that he is not able to really be known in a sense. And so as a result, there should never be anything human-like that you should attribute to Allah. And so why would you want to follow a God that you cannot know, or a God who created you but takes no real interest in your life, and he is so far and detached and removed from his creation? So in this category, I'm going to have to give another point to Christianity.
Okay, so there's not really a lot for me to say there, except that to say that the deity in Islam is distant is incorrect. They believe in a personal God just like we do. Their version or interpretation of that and what that means is very different. But yeah, no, also, let's just be clear, at least as far as claims are concerned, we both say we worship the exact same God, and we both say that we worship the God with the same foundations and same rules. So the rules are roughly the same, the interactions are roughly the same in Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. In fact, Judaism and Islam have a little bit more in common with their worship style than modern Protestant Christianity does with ancient Judaism. Ancient Judaism and modern Islam have a lot more in common than modern Protestant Christianity. I'd like to think that Orthodox Christianity, practiced as it is today, is closer to the ancient roots. But modern Catholic Christianity, yeah, we had a thing right after the Reformation. We had the Counter-Reformation. We had Vatican II after that. So our Mass has changed some. We keep the liturgy ties into what's in the Bible. I mean, Revelations is a great example of that. But what Alan Parr is saying there, well, in a broader sense, is true. On a case-by-case, very technical level, is just completely improvable, one way or the other.
Category has to do with the holy writings. And so as believers, we believe that the Old and New Testaments make up the Bible, or the holy writings of God. And these writings were written over a 1600-year period, written on 3 continents, and were written by 40 different authors. And even though there were 40 different authors,
he's leaving out what you guys call the Apocrypha, what we call the Deuterocanonical books, and also he's leaving out the Church Fathers. But all right, we won't get into that.
Writing scripture, there is a consistent message without error that's woven throughout the entire writing of scripture. Now, the holy writings for the Quran are in a different situation. First and foremost, they were written over a 23-year period. Number 2, the entire revelation of the Quran was revealed to only one man named Muhammad. But not only that, even in the Quran, they acknowledge that certain parts of the Bible are considered authoritative writings of scripture. Primarily the Torah, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, and then the Psalms, and then the Gospels as well. Now, this is very interesting because much of what's written in the Gospels contradicts what is in the Quran in terms of Jesus being the Savior of the world and the only way, truth, and life to get to the Father. And so if they are acknowledging that parts of the Bible are inspired by God, or the Gospels rather, then it would seem interesting that these parts contradict the idea that Muhammad should be followed.
Let me take a break there and kind of elaborate a little bit on something that he's saying. Not so much to contradict what he's saying, but to put a kind of a finer point on it. Because there is a difference between how Catholics view inspiration because we have a thing called tradition, and the way that he views the Bible as being without error, being sola scriptura, the four solas. So because of that, because of that difference, there's something that he's not quite acknowledging, which is that the first half of the Bible, at least the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, which doesn't accept some of the writings that he accepts in his version of the Bible, which is the Protestant version, which definitely doesn't accept some of the parts of the Bible that I accept as a Catholic. And also there are different communities of Judaism, and in those communities, some of them have different sets of books. Let's not worry about all of that, because that's way too complicated and way too much to parse into. The point is that the Jewish people are not going to look at the New Testament and go like, yeah, we accept it. Okay? So we accept a book. We accept a set of books that Jewish people don't accept. It's called the New Testament. And Islam accepts a book that Christians don't accept, and it's called the Quran. To act like that's just with Islam. No. It's in Christianity. Even between Christians, between Catholics and Protestants, there's a divide there between the Coptics and the Jewish people. There's a divide there. So to act like this is as hard of a case as he's going to make, it's not. Anyway, let's continue on. I hope you guys can hear what he's saying, because I have a new mic. It might be canceling him out.
So the Quran acknowledges that Jesus healed the sick and gave sight to the blind.
David Wood does this much better than he's doing.
And healed the leper and had clear proofs. People denied it and said it was just magic, and he helped raise people from the dead and all these things. If in the book it says that someone else can do the very works of God, it would stand to believe that you should follow that person that book is talking about.
The apostles could also do miracles. He's forgetting that part. And there's other prophets in the Bible that could also do miracles. There's also miracles in other works that are non-biblical. Okay.
I'm going to have to give Christianity another point. And the 6th category that we're going to explore in terms of the differences of Christianity and Islam is the way of salvation. Now, in Christianity, we believe that salvation is a free gift of God. You can't earn it. You can't work for it. You can't do anything in order to be saved. This is something that God gives you free, and it is not by your own merit or effort. In addition to this, we believe as Christians that we can...
As Catholics, we have a faith and works method, just to be clear. But anyway, continue on.
We can have a certainty of our salvation. That we don't have to go around always wondering and being insecure.
And there is no certainty other than faith. But anyway.
In terms of whether we are saved or not. But in the Islam faith, salvation is attained in a different way. It has to do with strict obedience to their laws, or prayers, or fasting, or making a...
He's going to make a legalistic argument, which is the same argument he would make against Catholics. So I'm going to completely reject his argument right off the bat, but who knows, he might say something interesting after this point.
Pilgrimage to Mecca and all of these other things, and because of that there is never any certainty of salvation. Salvation is only granted by the mercy of Allah. So everywhere you go in your life, you have to be in some way nervous. Or
even in Christianity, salvation is only given by the mercy and grace of God. Allah is another word for God. He does understand that he's speaking English and that the word God wouldn't be the word that was used by the ancient Hebrews or the ancient Greeks or ancient Romans or ancient Aramaic people. Like, they would have used a different word. Same way, translation, Allah. Anyway, okay.
Uncertain as to whether you are actually going to get to paradise, is what they call it. Unless, of course, you die as a martyr for what you believe, and if that is the case, then you go to paradise where there will be 70...
Before he gets to that, in Christianity, if you're a martyr, you go straight to heaven. In fact, it's possible to get to heaven as a martyr without baptism, because it's a baptism of blood or baptism by martyrdom. So what he's saying is irrelevant and contradicts Christianity and Christian beliefs on that as well, because Christians have martyrs as well.
2 virgins that are waiting for you there to give you as much sexual pleasure as you would like.
My guess, and I'm not saying this for certain, I don't think he read the Hadith. I think he just simply got that from someone else who got that from someone else.
I'm going to have to give another point to Christianity, because I know that in and of myself, I am not able to earn my salvation. There's nothing that I can do, and I can't make sure that all of my good deeds outweigh my bad ones. And so there.
Yeah, but you can make sure that once you're saved, you continue to do good works. And you can show your faith through your works.
Therefore, point Christianity. And the 7th and final category is one that people don't talk about a lot, and that is the view of women. You know, in the Bible, we assert that women are equal in terms of their value to God. The Bible says there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female. Both of them are equally as valuable to God. But in the Islam...
This actually gets into something that I was going to make a video on a long time ago when it comes to paganism and Christianity, how modern people, both on the Christian and secular side, give paganism this, I don't even know, you'd want to call it utopian, maybe even a dystopian view of sexuality and gender. It didn't exist. In ancient Roman culture, women were severely oppressed. In ancient Greek culture, women were severely oppressed. In Orthodox Judaism, women are oppressed. In Orthodox Christianity, women are oppressed. Sorry, they are. So women are not allowed to be priests. Women were kept in, were protected and seen as property for a very long time. This is not a religious problem, this is a cultural problem. And in the cultures that the religions come out of, those cultures believe those things. These are societal, cultural problems that are reflected in the religion. They don't come from the religion. Yes, Christianity makes the great leap of viewing all people as equal, as a lot of Protestants like to say, as standard bearers or image bearers of God, of the image of God. I get it. That's what he's going to try to argue. But the truth is that in Orthodox religions, actual orthodoxy, not modern reinterpretations of orthodoxy or re-orthodoxy or whatever you want to call it, in the actual original religions, those cultures and societies that those religions were in, women were severely oppressed. It isn't until the modern era when women in Western and Eastern societies began to get rights. That's not just in China, that's not just in the US, that's not just in Britain, that's worldwide. Women have been severely oppressed. Sorry, you can't get out of this one. You can't say, oh, well, in paganism, oh, everything was fine, homosexuality was fine, women had equal rights. No. Yeah, there were some female priests, but those female priests were usually slaves of the men of that group, of the people who controlled them. You weren't free by being a priest. In fact, by being a priestess, you were probably treated worse in some ways. You were more imprisoned because you weren't allowed to have sex and you weren't allowed to make your own decisions and you had to stay pure, and if you broke your chastity, you would be killed. You would be thrown into a well and you'd have to be buried alive, and you'd die, or you'd be burned at a stake for having sex if you were a woman, if you were a female oracle or a female priest. Women were severely oppressed in the pagan world and in those cultures. So anyway.
It seems to be...
Oh, there's also a little attention that I was going to make about homosexuality, which is in the ancient world, they also didn't have a good view of homosexuality. They treated homosexuals terrible as well. They burned them. They did a whole bunch of horrible stuff. These are pagan cultures. Yes, I know. Julius Caesar is rumored to have been gay. Alexander the Great was rumored to be gay. But here's the thing. The people writing those biographies who made those claims as a way to insult or to denigrate Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great. They weren't saying it to make them sound better than, but they were trying to make them sound effeminate. I know that seems unfair because you're like, hey, those are our best examples of ancient, powerful, great, ancient homosexual men. I get it. But that's not how it was written. It was written in a way to denigrate them from their greatness and dehumanize them. And humanize here doesn't have a good connotation because they were viewed as divinities by the people who had cults dedicated to them.
They're allowed to have up to 4 wives. Second of all, there's a general belief that women are in some way inferior to men. And then finally, many of their prophets believe that over 80% of the people in hell are going to be women. So for this 7th category, particularly if I'm a woman, I'm going to have to give a point to Christianity. So now as we tally up the score, I see 6 points for Christianity and 1 point for Islam. Now, I'm obviously very biased here. It seems very clear that Christianity is the faith that we should follow because of all the things that we discussed in this video. Now, there are many other differences in terms of Islam and Christianity, but these are the major ones. So whenever you're talking with someone who is from the Islam faith, you'll now be able to have an understanding or a perspective in terms of what they believe and why they believe it.
I'm sorry, his understanding of Islam is worse than his understanding of Catholicism. I made a video responding to him on Catholicism where he almost got every single point wrong. He got more wrong in this slightly satirical video directed toward Islam than he got wrong in his video on Catholicism. At least he got some of the words right, or some of our sayings right in that one. Muslims, forgive this man. He does not know what he's saying. He does not know what he's doing. He does not understand Islam at all. I would question whether or not he's read the Quran. I don't think he's read any hadith, at least not by the way that he's talking. If you want to talk about religion or philosophy and you're Muslim, you guys know you're welcome on my channel. Gladly talk to you guys. But Alan Parr doesn't know anything about Islam. And he just demonstrates his ignorance over and over again in all of his videos. He's a great speaker. He's very charismatic. I don't know. I think he's kind of handsome. He clearly has very strong faith, but he's also clearly very ignorant on other faiths and other religions and denominations. So anyway, peace, like, and subscribe. Talk to you all later. Have a good night.